This is a brief video on populations made by the awesome Mrs. Jarvis and read to you by Mrs. Wiegers. So when we're talking about population, we're just really talking about the number of one specific organism. For example, humans, our population's at about 7 billion or 8 billion right now, very close to 8 billion. We might talk about the number of wolves. We might talk about the number of rabbits. We might even talk about the number of deer. In this case, you see a picture of these cute little red frogs. Counting the number of those red frogs in a specific ecosystem would be their population. Predators. As human beings, we have few natural predators. Think why we have few natural predators. We have technology, guns, shelter, and clothing to protect us from extreme weather, to protect us from predators that we might have, and we have mastered the art of hunting. I have no idea what that picture is, but I would run if I saw it. Cycles. However, in the natural world, there are population cycles that depend on natural selection. So these guys are riding some bikes or unicycles. Those are not the cycles we're talking about. A cycle we're talking about is the increasing or the going up and the decreasing or the going down of the number of wolves or the number of deer in an ecosystem. How does it work? As conditions change, animals get better at reproducing. For example, there might be more food for the animal. Temperature might be more favorable. They might be able to find better shelter. So numbers increase. The population goes up. If that happens, the predators of that organism who is surviving better will also increase. Populations then decrease again. Why? Well, more organisms need more food. We graph it. We show the relationship between the predator and prey using a graph. The graph shows the population for both. So you can see here, the blue line is the snowshoe hare. And that's our herbivore. This guy eats only plants. And you can see all of a sudden, in the early 1800s, there's a whole bunch of food for that snowshoe hare. And so the blue line increases or goes way up in number. And you can see shortly after, the red line starts to increase as well. And that's our lynx. Because all of a sudden, the lynx has more prey to eat. Well, eventually, the food source for the rabbit runs out. Or environmental conditions change. And that red line starts to go down again. And you can see at 1875, it's at an all-time or a low on that graph. And you can see the blue line follows behind it. It lags just a little bit behind in the cycle. For example, in the wild, there are often cycles where herbivore populations explode. Once this population growth occurs, the animals that prey on those animals have an abundance of food, and their populations can also grow. Here's what it looks like. Wow, that's a cool graph. Can you suggest why? Harsh weather. So if you get a big snowstorm and super low temperatures, the rabbits might not be able to survive as well. Cold winters. Flooding. Drought. Too much food. So most of these things would cause a decrease in a population. I don't really know how too much food would cause an decrease. I think that one's is an example of causing an increase in a population. Another species died out. Oh, there's another one. So the animal doesn't have to compete for food, it's going to be better able to reproduce. Trees. Interesting. To graph. We calculate the change in population from year to year. To do this, we have to take into account all the factors that affect population. Okay, I'm going to talk about a formula here. Don't worry so much about the math, but worry about why a population will change. We learn how to calculate population growth. A whole bunch of letters. Cool. Where? So one thing that will change a population over a year. Oh, that's our final population. Whoops, that's what they're trying to find. So the starting population, the number of births is going to affect how a population changes over a year. Deaths will also affect a population. And immigration, so the number of animals coming into an ecosystem. Also, the number of animals leaving an ecosystem will affect its population. So an example is, in the spring there are 45 deer living in one section of forest outside of North Bay. 10 females have 2 babies each. Over the winter, 6 of those babies die, and 2 adults are shot by hunters. A fire forces 3 deer to leave, and a flood in Mattawa forces 8 deer to join the population. What is the new population? So basically, you have a whole bunch of reasons why the deer would leave. You have death, you have forest fire, you have flood, and hunters. You also have some reasons why the deer population would go up. There's babies being born. I don't see any immigration though. So to calculate, basically you take the population of deer, you add the babies born, you subtract the number hunted, you add the number that immigrated, and you subtract the number that ran away because of forest fire. I think that's basically what it is. Holy man, so we end up with 46 deer. Therefore, there is a new population of 46, or an increase of only 1. Now, the assignment. You're to graph the number of deer versus the number of wolves over the years. Put both populations on the same graph. Answer the questions. If you get to the point of answering questions, you're probably working at close to a level 3+, maybe a level 4. Ask for help if you need it. Be neat.